Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien, personal development coach, HeartMath practitioner, dog photographer, and entrepreneur. In this podcast, I share tools, strategies, and amazing guest interviews to help you improve your mindset and your well-being with a sprinkle of fun and probably some mention of dogs along the way. So without further ado, let's squeeze the day. Hi folks, welcome to episode 47 of the podcast. And if you're listening to this on the day it drops, happy Valentine's Day. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about living with heart and how to tap your heart's innate intelligence to reduce stress and improve your life. More than ever, as a collective human family, which we are, whether we like it or not, we need to be living from our hearts, not our heads. And I think we've lost touch with the fact that we affect each other, not just with our actions and our words, but with the energy we hold in our bodies, which we're often unaware of until we develop the skill of self-awareness. And did you know that our hearts produce an electromagnetic field that can be detected up to a meter, that's up to 3 feet for anybody in the US or the UK, around our body in all different directions? And our emotional states, which I'll share a little bit more about shortly, are encoded in this electromagnetic field. It feels good to be around someone who's happy, and it's generally quite awful to be in the presence of a person who is seething with rage. Because of this heart's electromagnetic field, you can literally sense somebody else's vibe. So it's a real thing, folks, and this has been looked into and tested scientifically by the folks at the HeartMath Institute. So in 2022, I qualified as a HeartMath practitioner, and what drew me to HeartMath was the prospect of learning a tool that could help me live more in alignment, feel happier, and cope far better with what life threw at me. And the plus here is that as somebody who loves to be in control, the allure of being able to better control my emotions was really quite tantalizing for me. I got to a point where I was fed up of living at the mercy of my unruly emotions, of being stressed out one minute by the feelings of worry and anxiety about my business or something that's changed in my personal life, and then on top of the world the next when something went well. The way I felt each day was due to external circumstances, which, whether I like to admit it or not, were not and are not within my control. And when we hand off responsibility for our happiness to other people, to events, to results, we're essentially losing all control over our lives and how we feel. We are relying on external circumstances to make us happy. And I think when you start to have a look around at the way people are in the world and how people have become so reliant on being able to shop and buy and get more and more and more, it's a sure sign really that a lot of people are feeling very unhappy in themselves, because we're often looking very externally for things to make us feel good, and that only lasts for so long. And I think the thing here to remember is that life as a human is difficult. There is no point trying to sugarcoat it. Life is generally a period of highs and lows that repeat until we die. And often you might find yourself clinging to times that are good and actually not really being able to enjoy the joyful periods of life because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's something that Brené Brown calls foreboding joy, which I'm sure you can relate to. It's something I can relate to a lot. Or even worse, you might not enjoy life at all because you're so focused on the things that can go wrong all of the time. And I have found with learning HeartMath techniques, doing a lot of my own inner work, being coached and doing shadow work and investigating my own way of being, there is another way to do life that allows you to navigate the turbulent waters and to stay afloat and manage to ride the waves, as it were, without drowning in the chaos. And one of those tools is HeartMath. And it's all about tapping your heart's innate intelligence. And They're a set of tools that are so simple, but yet they are so very, very powerful. So your heart isn't just a vital organ that pumps blood around your body. It's also an intelligent center that contains over 40,000 neurons, which is as many neurons as there are in some of the limbic centers of your brain. And your heart works with the autonomic nervous system to communicate with your brain. So there's a two-way street. There's a two-way communication highway between the heart and the brain. It isn't just the brain issuing all of the instructions. The heart also has a say as well. And the messages going from your heart to your brain are able to influence your emotions, your thoughts, and your overall systemic well-being. And learning HeartMath techniques is one of the ways you can positively influence these messages. I just want to share a little bit about the autonomic nervous system. This is something that's talked about an awful lot. You might have heard this bandied around very frequently on social media if you're on there at the moment, people talking about nervous system regulation. So the autonomic nervous system is composed of two parts: the sympathetic nervous system, which is the one that's responsible for the fight or flight stress response. So that is the one that generally we're trying to calm down. It's the one that elicits all of the sensory feelings that come with being stressed. And then we have our parasympathetic nervous system, which is also known as the rest and digest, which is the one that is continually trying to slow things down. And when they are working harmoniously together, which you can do, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to do that now, your system will work beautifully. Everything's efficient internally and with your heart and your hormonal system. But which is more often the case than not for a lot of people, your autonomic nervous system is working, both parts are working against each other. This is when things start to go awry and we start to feel the symptoms of stress. So to talk a bit more about our heart intelligence, really that's the seat of our emotional intelligence. And that affects the quality of our lives through the relationships we have with other people and the relationships we have with ourselves. And I shared earlier that I've done a lot of inner work. I've been using HeartMath for 2 years now. And as I have improved my relationship with myself, you'll have heard me talk in previous podcast episodes about self-talk, about building self-confidence. Really, when we improve the relationship we have with ourselves, it's easier to improve the relationship we have with other people around us. So most of the shifts we can achieve in our lives start within. They start with us. So to quote Doc Childre and Howard Martin from the book, The HeartMath Solution, which is a great read if you're interested in this, heart intelligence is the intelligent flow of awareness and insight that we experience once the mind and emotions are brought into balance and coherence through a self-initiated process. So you are going to very likely be familiar with your own personal stress response. It might sound a little bit like this: a surge of adrenaline, a racing heart, a tight feeling in your chest, your shoulders, or your gut, an inability to focus, ruminating thoughts, yay for those, and either the urge to make a hasty exit from wherever you are, or the urge to pick up the nearest blunt instrument you can find and prepare yourself for battle. So that is our fight or flight response in action when our stress response is activated. So not only does feeling stressed cause mental distress and physical discomfort, when you're constantly stressed over an extended period of time, your body's hormonal system is always out of whack, thanks to a never-ending stream of cortisol racing around, keeping you on high alert. Too much cortisol has an inflammatory effect on the body, which can cause disease. Plus, all of the stress creates uneven heart rhythms, which, guess what, over a period of time contribute to the risk of cardiovascular disease. So prolonged stress can literally kill you. And it fascinates me that on an intellectual level, so many of us know this, yet so few of us are actually doing anything to address the causes of stress in our lives, because it's a difficult thing to address, because our lives have become inordinately stressful. Au contraire, when you're able to bring your heart, head, and nervous system into a state of coherence and calm, You'll feel relaxed, be able to think clearly, and you'll be operating from a state of measured responsiveness rather than reactivity. So on the inside, this looks like a coherent heart-brain state, which increases the production of the anti-aging hormone DHEA. Yay for anti-aging. It lowers your blood pressure, it reduces strain on your heart, and it boosts your immune system. So a calm physical and mental state is quite literally a healing state. And I'm going to ask you a question here. When was the last time you felt calm and relaxed? And if your answer is, I can't remember, hang on till the end and I have something just for you. So let's talk a little bit. I've used the word coherence a few times in this podcast, and I just want to talk a bit about what coherence is when it comes to heart intelligence and HeartMath and our body systems being coherent. If you imagine an orchestra playing Bach's Air on a G string perfectly, all the musicians are working together fabulously to produce a beautiful symphony. And if you substitute the musicians for systems in your body working together, you have coherence. And then if you imagine all of the musicians playing their parts 2 notes out of sync with each other, creating nothing but an awful noise, that is what incoherence looks like between the systems in your body when you are stressed. So you can hopefully get a bit of a visual or an auditory metaphor for the difference of coherence and incoherence when it's put like that. And if you can imagine the impact that incoherence has on your body, the strain it puts on your systems in your body, you can see why stress is so very damaging. And why, if you're stressed, you feel very tired, because your body's working extra hard to try and get everything in line and working together. It's essentially fighting against itself the whole time, which is, I mean, it sounds exhausting. So our internal coherence can be measured and monitored by observing heart rate variability. And this is the beat-to-beat changes, which are measured in milliseconds in your heart rate. And this is something that's regulated by your autonomic nervous system. So the greater the variability in your heart rate, the better shape your heart and your nervous system is in. Stress reduces your heart rate variability, which of course puts more strain on your heart and your nervous system. So there are various ways you can measure this. If you've got a fitness watch of some description, you can see how clued up I'm about fitness watches. Clearly, I don't have one. But if you have one of those, it might tell you a bit about your HRV, and you can also get biofeedback devices. So I've got a HeartMath biofeedback M-Wave Pro, it's called, that I pop into the computer, clip it on my ear, and I can get immediate feedback of what's going on internally. It's quite amazing to watch this in action. So if I'm doing my morning meditation and I start my M-Wave up and just get it calibrating, if I'm scrolling through my phone, for instance, because why not? In preparation to meditate, let me just scroll through Instagram, which sometimes is what I do. When I'm doing that, I will see my heart rate variability will drop drastically. And you can see the impact immediately of what scrolling through social media does to my system. It throws it completely out of coherence. And then when I start my meditation, not looking at my phone screen, and I start to employ the HeartMath techniques that I use and teach, my heart rate variability will increase quite quickly. So it really is something you can shift in the moment. That's what makes this so powerful. Bringing your heart and brain into alignment is easy. So I'm going to share with you one of the most simple HeartMath techniques, which is called heart-focused breathing. And this is something you can do while you're in your car, at your desk, on the phone, in a meeting. You don't have to go sit somewhere quietly and close your eyes to do this. You can do this whilst you are on the go. This is why these tools are so amazing. So, heart-focused breathing, you're going to just stop what you're doing momentarily, unless you're driving, in which case you can also do this, just please don't close your eyes. focus on the area around your heart and just imagine that you are breathing in and out of your heart area. And whilst you're doing that, slow your breathing down. So you are literally breathing in for a count of 5 and out for a count of 5. And you can do this for 2 to 3 minutes at a time. If you've got, you can be doing it constantly if you're concentrating on doing it. If you want to use it as a meditative practice, you can go away quietly somewhere and do it for 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes, whatever works for you. But this is a really great way of, in the moment, being able to get your system into coherence. And when you are coherent, you are in that parasympathetic nervous system. And that gives you access to being able to think more clearly, to be able to respond to people rather than react, to be able to slow your heart rate and just really start to get your system lined up. And when you use this in conjunction with other HeartMath tools practiced on a regular basis, there are a number of them. Quick coherence is one, freeze frame is another. When you use these alongside mindset and lifestyle changes, you can literally transform the way you feel on a daily basis, and you can have some control over how your life unfolds when you are in control of what's happening within you. When you feel calmer, happier, and in a more positive state, you will show up better. And thanks to your heart's electromagnetic field radiating your good vibes out into the ether, other people will respond to you very differently. So I challenge you to try out the heart-focused breathing technique for a few days. You can do it for 2 to 3 minutes at a time, 3 times a day to start off with. And make a note of how many people randomly smile at you in a day. I promise you, magical things happen when you shift your energetic state. To give you an example, I was in the pharmacy a couple of days ago, and I'd done my morning meditation, and I'd done a heart lock-in exercise with my HeartMath techniques, which is breathing and then generating a positive feeling for 15 minutes. I went to the pharmacy to go and pick up a prescription, and I was stood at the counter minding my own business, and one of the other pharmacists looked over at me and waved, and the customer she was serving looked over and smiled and said hello to me. I'm not in the pharmacy that often, don't know the man who waved at me. And I had a moment of, this is so funny, because I've done my HeartMath, I'm in a good state, and people pick up on it and people respond to it. It has been quite marvelous, the results I've seen. And then of course, what happens when we have interactions like that, even if they're with random strangers, it feels good. It feels good to connect with somebody who's waving and smiling and happy. And then of course, we take that out with us into the rest of our day. This stuff is really powerful, and we need it at the moment in this very challenging collective energetic environment that we are living in. So in the spirit of it being February, which is, the month of love and all that, I would like to extend an invitation to you to join my Intro to HeartMath course, which I have literally just launched today. You're going to learn the essentials of HeartMath and the skills required to be able to shift yourself out of a state of stress and anxiety and into greater coherence whenever you want. Imagine that. I'm going to be working with you one-on-one over 3 weekly sessions to help you improve your life with these very, very simple, very, very powerful HeartMath techniques. So this course is available throughout February for just $197. So you've got 2 weeks to book in at that rate before the price goes up to $297. And you can book using the link in the show notes. Or you can pop me an email for more information. It's emma@emmaobrien.coach.com. So I'm really excited to have shared the HeartMath technique of heart-focused breathing with you today. I'm excited to have created a podcast about HeartMath, because it's something that I am really passionate about. I'm passionate about getting this out to more people. It's so accessible and it is game changing. And we need more positivity in our world right now. And I think there are so many people who are stressed and anxious, and this is a really powerful tool to be able to help soothe your stress and anxiety without having to go anywhere, without having to take any medication. It is really, really powerful. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode and what I have shared. If you've got any questions, pop me a DM on Instagram at Emma O'Brien Coach, and I really look forward to sharing these techniques with you and helping you feel better and do better. Thanks for joining me today. See you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share with your friends and be sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. To find out more about my one-on-one coaching, please visit my website, which is emmaobriencoach.com. And remember, folks, when life gives you lemons, you can always choose another fruit. See you next time.